I think Los Angeles is perhaps the best thing in the meeting.
The trainer has clearly been desperate to run here and not in the Yorkshire Oaks, which would have been a Group 1. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
He said, you know what you're doing, don't you? Don't hit the front too soon. And I said, yeah, okay.
When did you hit the front?
Inside the final furlong.
Ooh, you
and
did.
I come in and he told me I still hit the front too soon. So.
Hello and welcome to this very special episode of Inside Track, brought to you by Wiliam Hill as we preview York's 2024 Ebor Festival. My name is Kate Tracey, and joining me, the usual even protagonist of Louis Steward, Nick Luck, and also joining us, jockey turned broadcaster, assistant trainer, James Millman. So James, great to have you on board.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Oh, no, great. And we've got so much to get stuck into as well. So we will be getting straight into it in due course. But before then, a reminder of Wiliam Hill's offer. Now, Wiliam Hill are offering a top price guarantee on the first race of every day of the Ebor meetings. So make sure to take advantage of that. And it is, of course, also worth mentioning that Wiliam Hill had more top prices in June and July than any other major bookmaker, as verified by Oddschecker. Right, that's the housekeeping over and done. We're into the preview because we're going to start with Wednesday with the 3 o'clock, the Great Voltigeur. James, it only feels right as for new guests. You should kickstart us.
I think Los Angeles is perhaps the best thing in the meeting, starting off in the Great Vulture, because for me, he was used a bit as a pacemaker in the Derby itself. I thought he ran an absolute stormer to finish third. He was number one for Voltigeur in the Irish Derby, came good. I think 3 Voltigeur runners versus 3 others. The race is going to be set up perfectly for him. Make it a stamina test, which might be a negative for King's Gambit stepping up in trip. And I think he's got a cracking chance to get opponents off to a great start.
Yeah, like I say, he's going to be well supported in the market then, Nick, of course, isn't he? We know the talent he has. We know the slight little characteristics that he had previous to the Derby. He was a lot better behaved in the Irish Derby itself. But with the talent that he's got there, it's understandable why he should be pretty prominent.
Yeah, as James has pointed out, if you're a stable that fields half the runners in the race, you're mighty difficult to beat because you can completely dictate it to your own ends. And the one major danger is a horse we don't know anything about as regards stamina in King's Gambit. I love King's Gambit as a horse, but they wanted to run in the Juddmonte International. They didn't because the race has got so much depth. Dear a Mile was only just behind Los Angeles, and that'll sucker some people in, but it was probably to his advantage that he was picking up pieces when the race was done in the Derby. And I think, to James's point, Los Angeles was there doing it on the sharp end. And at the current prices, he's probably not a bad bet.
No, I would have to agree with that as well. And as you say, with the stamina test that we're going to have here over the mile 4, Los Angeles is surely more adept to that rather than the unknown of King's Gambit. Do you think that, let's say you've just said yourself there where they wanted to run him over the 10, but is this, will it see any further improvement in him, King's Gambit?
It's possible. It's difficult to say dogmatically on pedigree. And he couldn't show himself to best effect last time in the Sky Bet, and that was over 10 furlongs, because the race was run at an absolute crawl. It's frustrating in a sense that he couldn't have or didn't run in the Juddmonte International. I think it would have told us a bit more about him, because that race is likely to be run at a good pace. But listen, if he doesn't stay, it's no big deal. They can always come back, run him in maybe the Irish Champion Stakes or the Champion Stakes. They want to run him in a Group 1 at some point, but it's certainly not going to be something like the St. Ledger, and he's in against Ledger types here, so it's not a game that is going to be played to his advantage.
No, that's exactly it. Like I say, we'll get the answers about King's Gambit anyway, Louis, won't we, in here, but it's really going to have that stamina question put to the test when you see what Los Angeles was able to do last time out, turned into a stamina test in the end that he completely relished.
Yeah, I think the only thing kind of on King's Gambit's side is going to be a track like York. I think York is a track that's quite easy going for horses stepping up in trip. Dear a Mile, I think, is probably going to be a horse that's going to take them along at a good gallop. So stamina is probably going to come into.
So you think they'll drill forward on Dear a Mile?
I think they will. I think there's no real option. I think he stayed on very well in the Derby. Obviously, I know beating tied horses, but I think a track like York, you've probably got to use Dear a Mile in a way that, not that he's got an edge, but something just to give him a bit more, because I don't think he's going to beat Los Angeles just giving like a rider or following him to a certain extent.
Could be a war, this, couldn't it? Just with 6
Yeah.
Could be. And then, James, I guess, how do you see this playing out tactically wise? Because from Voltigeur, so we've got Los Angeles, Illinois, and then Euphoric in there as well. Do you agree with what the lads were saying there, that it's going to be a well-run contest?
It'll be a well-run contest, for sure. If I had Dear a Mile, I'd be going for places and hopefully picking a few off, like they rode him in the Derby, because I think Los Angeles is a much classier horse anyway. And if you try and take on the pacemakers, which we've seen Team Doyle very happy to send them on at strong fractions, you're going to struggle to get home yourself.
Interesting, isn't it, that they've kept Dare a Mile. Ahmed Al-Sheikh is a man who will trade horses.
Sold the other one, didn't they?
He did, yeah. Sold Saadati Sadati, sold Hu Yamal very well. I'd imagine he was inundated with massive offers for this horse.
He might not pass the vet, perhaps, because he was quite a cheapish yearling.
Perhaps,
he hasn't
yeah.
run for 81 days, and it might have been, out of the two of them, the other one was the one that was going to probably make more for Australian buyers, and he may not have been as popular potentially, or he's the better one.
Or Knit One Pearl One, and you're in a luxurious position, and you think you can maybe go and win a classic.
Yeah, that's
Interesting to see
interesting
how
when
he
you
gets
look at
on.
it. 47,000 guineas as a yearling, as you've just said then, being by Camelot, out of Fastnet, missing the Fastnet Rock, damn. So, like I say, cheap enough then with that pedigree.
Yeah, you'd imagine potentially, again, I'm only surmising, some confirmation issues that would have put a lot of people off, and then they've got a bargain because he ran in a restricted maiden at Windsor at the start of the year. So the fact he was eligible for such races does just show you that they got a bargain, but reselling on a horse like that can be quite difficult because the vets are so stringent in Australia, especially if you're looking at that market, and that might be the aim. And also he has had the whole 81 days off since the Derby, so it may have been a plan, just freshen him up for an autumn campaign. I don't think he takes his racing too well.
Yeah, like I said, with the fact that we haven't seen him since the Derby, that fourth place finish, and we know that these connections, or this owner does like to sell them, that Dear a Mile might just have those slight little issues. But in terms of a win selection then for now, Nick?
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, James.
Los Angeles.
Same.
Oh, okay, right, there you go. At least we're getting off to a good start anyway, all in agreement over Los Angeles. Class to prevail. Can't wait to see what he's going to be like in the preliminaries again. I feel manners were put on him prior to the Irish Derby, some amount after Epsom. But
We showed a lot of working there for a very boring answer, didn't we?
I know, didn't we
We'll
just
get more
exactly
inventive, Kate.
go around the houses to come back to the original? Yeah, well, at least there's agreement anyway, which I always feel like is a major plus in this game. Right, we'll leave the Great Voltigeur there then. Let us know in the comments section who you fancy for that Group 2 contest as we move on to the big one itself, the Juddmonte International Stakes Group 1 contest, 3-year-olds and over the 10 furlongs. City of Troy then, Louis. He looks a decent enough price now in comparison to what he was earlier on in the week. Play or lay for you?
Yeah, I'm going to play him. He's a very strong fancy of mine, and I'm pretty sure on his chances in this. I think he didn't get the rub of the green in the Eclipse last time out. I watched the race back 100 times, and I just think he switched leads at the wrong time of the race when it was kind of developing, and I really think he got unbalanced before he was allowed to quicken. I think from a jockey's point of view, Ryan would have liked to kind of get him organised before he asked him to go, but where the race developed so quickly underneath him, he kind of had to go when he was asked to go. But a good performance, albeit he'll definitely come on for the run. And I think a track like York over this 10 furlongs will suit him even better. There's plenty of depth in this field, so they should go a good gallop for him.
Yeah, hopefully go that good gallop then for him as well. But Nick, I know there's been plenty of debate already about City of Troy because we had him on this pedestal from a very early stage of his career, fluffed then in the Guineas. Last time out, workmanlike has been the quote that's been bounded about countlessly about him from that. Where do we stand on him ability-wise?
Well, I think he earned the right to be on the pedestal because I thought particularly those first two performances as a 2-year-old were absolutely exceptional. And his performance in the Derby had lots of quality about it. The way he changed leads that day, ran straight to the line. Okay, you got the dream trip,
Perfect.
the dream split. The two jockeys on the other Batley Doyle horses couldn't have ridden a race better. It was probably the most perfect execution of tactics I've ever seen from them. Their track positioning, the fractions, everything went right. But the horse had loads left and he galloped hard through the line. Sandown was a bit of a mess. I don't really know what to make of it. Maybe the ground was a viable excuse. Maybe we're going to get a bucket load more rain again, which wouldn't be in his favour. I'm definitely more positively disposed towards the horse than be heavily against him. Mm-hmm. You know, I wouldn't want to be laying him at much bigger than even money, I grant you. But that's not what anyone really wants to hear at this minute right now. They want to hear, okay, who's going to run above their odds? Who's going to produce a massive performance? Who's going to be the one that's going to take it to City of Troy? Who are the City of Troy camp most worried about? If you were Aidan O'Brien, okay, he's pretty single-minded, so he's just worried about getting his horse there in the right nick. But who are the rest of the Coolmore camp most worried about in this race? Is it Ambiente friendly? Is it Blue Stocking? I'd be fairly sure it's one of those. And I think the filly Blue Stocking could be the one.
Yeah, they're rolling the dice then with Blue Stocking in here. So why do you think she's the one, out of her and Ambiente Friendly, is the one to watch?
Thought she was brilliant at York in the Middleton. I think she's a strongly run 10 furlong filly, really, even though she stayed well in the King George. I think really rapid pace at 10 is perfect for her. She's in the form of her life. The trainer has clearly been desperate to run here and not in the Yorkshire Oaks, which would have been a Group 1. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I just think she's a high-quality, high-caliber racehorse who's in the form of her life. When you get fillies or mares on a roll like this, they just keep delivering for you. And she'd be the one I'd be most worried about, and she's quite a big price.
She is, isn't she? And do you think that there's kind of pressure off now that they've won that Group 1 with her, that they can go and take on the boys with Blue Stocking?
Definitely. I think if she hadn't won the Group 1...
They would probably be more tempted to go down the Yorkshire Oaks route.
They'd want to win the Group 1.
Yeah. So she taking on the boys, and hopefully we will get to see that, James. But again, I want to throw that question to you, actually, that Nick has just asked himself there, where if you were Team Ballydoyle, who would you be most worried about, or who would you be having the half an eye on taking on City of Troy in here to be the biggest danger?
The bright yellow, Ambiente Friendly, because for me in the derby itself, my eye was always drawn to Rab Havlin. I thought he was always travelling exceptionally well. He had a perfect slot, to be honest, for most of that contest. And the same scenario might well emerge again on Wednesday, because Hans Andersen is the only pacemaker that Ballydoyle got in the race. First time blinkers. Poor Hans Andersen's going to be going quick early doors. But he's in stall 3, Rab's in stall 2. He's going to have a nice slot to track the pacemaker, sit where Rab wants to sit. I think it's going to be relatively straightforward, considering the big field. City of Troy's in stall 5. Ryan's not going to be too far away from him. And I just think dropping back 2 furlong and trip is going to be a big plus. I know in the winter, James Fanshawe wasn't particularly keen on trying the Derby route. He didn't think he'd stay a mile and a half. Now he has to relatively good effect, because it was a great run in the Derby. The stamina ran out in Ireland. Dropping back 2 furlong and trip, flat track, I think there's lots of pluses for me for him.
What makes this so tactically intriguing for me is it's almost inconceivable, given the way that City of Troy's looked in his races so far, that he's not going to be right up on the sharp end, sitting behind his pacemaker, or at least in no worse than 3rd or 4th. And to that end, it's almost inconceivable for me that Ambiente Friendly and Blue Stocking, arguably the 2 biggest dangers, aren't going to be sitting behind.
And that's why it makes Rab's life much easier to jockey, because
and Russell Ryan's
he's got his horses where he wants to be right next to him. Whereas if you're in a wide draw, Ghostwriter, say, he's in stall 13 or 13, that makes Richard Kingscott's life very difficult, because you either drop in at the back of the field, you try and go forward and hope you get in. Whereas Rab Havlin, for me, he'd have been absolutely delighted when that draw came out, because he knows in his mind what race he's going to ride, and he can kind of guarantee where those immediately next to him are going to be in the race. And City of Troy is going to be his marker. And for me, if you stop the race 2 out at Epsom, I still probably wanted to be in yellow and not dark blue. So I'm strong in Ambiente Friendly. Either way, City of Troy's got a few question marks against him. Because of the big field, we've got lots of each way options. Nick's mentioned Blue Stocking, Armstrong and Ambiente Friendly, but there's going to be a few that have ridden for places, and lots think they can win that race. So you might get a big price horse. You've mentioned Docklands.
Oh, look,
early
loads
doors.
of horses.
Because
loads of horses you could give
a horse that's ridden to be placed could certainly run way past their odds.
Yeah, Hayley Turner is a patient rider by nature, and this horse and she get on extremely well, Louis. I think he could run a bold race again, but then you've got to be careful here, because you could get suckered into backing 4 or 5 horses because you think, oh, they're a really good horse. They're 33 to 1. You know, just stay focused.
Look how many other good horses are, well, better horses again than ability-wise are ahead of them. But just on Docklands, is it that Queen Anne form? Because at the time, people were a little bit suspicious of it, taking with it a degree of a pinch of salt. But now it's just continued to work out better and better and better.
Yeah, I mean, Sharon has obviously gone on and done his thing. And it is a race that's looking a little bit better than it did at the time. But I suspect Docklands is just a very high-class horse who could improve for the trip. This is a better, deeper group of horses. Mm-hmm. Certainly wouldn't surprise me to see him get in the frame.
No, at a big price as well. But Louis, I just want to throw it to you, because James has just been touching upon it there about the riding style and the running style of Ambiente Friendly and how that might translate to York. Now, we know York, for whatever reason, I still haven't figured it out what the idiosyncrasies of York are and why there are certain specialists here. You, as a jockey, what is it about York that certain horses just take to it?
Well, it's a very fair track, run at normally quite fast paces. As a jockey, you have to be on the ball. I always like to go forward at York. I know you can come from behind because it is so fair, and you always got that risk of people swallowing you up 3 out. I think if you dictate the pace properly and no one pesters you, it works out in your favour. You can kind of skip off the front end, but it is a track where very wide open up the straight. They kind of come off that rail as they turn in. You can have horses coming at you at all angles, and it does leave you a sitting duck. So that'd be my only concern with Ambiente Friendly and Blue Stocking going forward in a race like that. They could just get forced to go a bit too soon.
Why do jockeys commit too early at York?
Because it's so fair that there's no rise, there's no nothing. It's just if your horse has got plenty in the tank, you can normally keep going at a rate of knots to the finishing line.
Just to keep the momentum going, then if you're going well enough.
Well, look how fast the 5 furlong is there. It's absolutely rapid, and they keep going off the front end. It's the same sort of thing. Very fair, very open, but it's kind of based on what the jockeys are doing around you to how your race is going to unfold. If you do get it easy out in front, then it's normally the best place to be.
Normally the best place to be then. So James, does that make you worried at all? But also I want to chuck to you in the same question, Al Flayler, who we haven't touched upon at all yet, his course record, 3 from 4, isn't he, over it? The only time he's lost there, second on his handicap debut. So again, we talk about horses for courses. Al Flayler become none better than him at York, which might just help him to bridge that level to those more talented horses.
He was gutsy in the York Stakes last time out. It was a 4-winner race, King's Gambit, we're going to see in the Great Voltigeur. It developed into a bit of a sprint, and I thought 1 out is going to be third. And he actually hit the line really strong. A stronger run race is going to suit him. Again, if I was Jim Crowley, I'd be more in the riding for a place mindset in that contest. And that actually might play to his strengths because, as Louis says, some could go a little bit too hard too soon. But again, for me, for Rab Havlin, Seat of Troy is the one that you're going to be keeping your eyes focused on. And Rab isn't going to want to attack him too early because he knows Ambiente Friendly perhaps isn't the strongest finisher off the bridle. So I think he'll be able to pick and choose when he wants to go. But yeah, a horse like Al Flayler who has that course record, because York is a bit of a course specialist track. Again, we mentioned so many horses have chances. That's what makes it a great race. Normally you get a superstar, a couple of pacemakers, 1 or 2 that might be good enough normally to be Group 1 place, whereas this time around, 13 runners, 1 pacemaker, 10, 11 of them, you're not going to be shocked if they're in the places.
No, but just to wrap up though, Ambiente Friendly for you.
Strong, solid selection.
Nick, did we actually nail you down to a main selection?
Yeah, Blue Stocking I think is the bet in the race.
Is the bet then at those prices, Louis?
City of Troy.
Oh, okay, and I'm going to be with Al Flayler. I just feel that going back to York is going to help him to bridge that gap. Hopefully see a blinding display though from City of Troy in the Juddmonte International Stakes. Again, do let us know in the comment section below who you fancy for the big one. As we move on to the Thursday of York, and we begin with the first race as well, the 150, the Lowther Stakes. Group 2, 2-year-olds over 6 furlongs. And a reminder again that Wiliam Hill have a top price guarantee on the first race of every day of the York Ebor Festival. So it comes in the Lowther. Now, we don't have, of course, massive amounts of form then for these 2-year-olds to go at, but Leovani has been really well found throughout the build-up then to York. So, Nick, is this a horse that you expect to remain unbeaten, or were you willing to take him on?
I'm willing to take her on.
Ooh,
Yeah, I'm quite sweet on Celandine here, who I think connections, because she won that Empress Stakes, and it was very competitive Empress Stakes, she had Arabian Dusk behind her. I think they slightly got convinced into believing that she was a 5 furlong filly. I'm not convinced she is. I think that 6 furlong suits her well. A horse goes and wins impressively over a given distance. It's amazing how many times trainers and jockeys will turn around and go, I think they're going to be better over insert, further, shorter, whatever. And actually you'll find, that's their optimum trip. I think she's bred to be more of a 6+ than she is 5. I think a fast 6 will suit her quite well in the Lowther. She's got pace. I think ready excuses for her last run. I didn't think the track suited her particularly well. And I'll give her another chance.
Okay, another chance then. So being forgiving, though, is Nick James. What were your initial impressions of her?
I thought she was a bit exposed, to be honest. I think going back up to 6 on a sharp 6 as well, I think will suit her. But we've seen her a few times now, and she's been pretty busy for a filly, whereas Colberg has given the favourite a nice break. And Colberg's strength and depth with the 2-year-old fillies in particular, he's got so many to mark him against, and the feedback And last week I was reading headlines saying she's working the house down.
My issue is the form. I just don't think the form.
The Queen Mary's not worked out that well, has it?
That great.
Ultimately. But then again, it was just her second start. Daughter Cody Bear, she's been given time to freshen up, whereas the other 2-year-olds have been busy. Heaven's Gate, we've seen her a fair bit. She won the sales race over at Naas. I just thought she deserves to be favourite. But I quite like one each way at a price. That's Time for Scandal, who for me ran an absolute storm. You watch the super sprint back, just her second start in a race, which generally experience really helps in that contest because they go, I don't know, it's one of the few good races that I rode in, but they go so fast out the gates. Like I rode an outsider and I was literally, the gates opened and I was about 5 lengths behind because they go absolutely flat out.
Yeah.
And that was the case for Time for Scandal. She was just too far behind, but she absolutely flew inside the final furlong. She was unfortunate, I think, not to win that race. And because it's a smaller yard, Harry Eustace, he could have a big day on Wednesday with Ducklands. I just thought she was a cracking each way bet because she's still unexposed. She's much better for me than what she showed at Newbury.
I didn't like her draw at Newbury either.
Yep.
Because where she was over out there on the far side, back, and Richard Kingscote rode it, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did. Yeah, and I think he's a cracking jockey, but he was a hostage to.
It was a very messy super sprint actually this year as well. But
she did travel well. I like it.
I thought that was a really good effort on just her second career start, and like I say, it's a race where nothing particularly stands out. So at a bigger each way price, she could be one for me.
Yeah, like I say, only 2 starts so far. Would have done no end of learning them from a super sprint. You look back down the draws for the winner, K-Burn in 10. I know that Vingegaard was in 4 and then Time for Sandals in 1. But then the rest of them were all high draws. So she was against a lot of things there and has been readily dismissed pretty much then as a result of that. But Louis, do you prefer in a race like this a 2-year-old filly that has got more experience or has got that lesser exposed profile?
I mean, I'd rather a bit of class over everything.
Over everything. To be fair, that does trump a fair few things. Fair enough.
And I think Liavani is the class filly in the race. I don't think there's too much depth in it. You're probably looking at horses that maybe not necessarily going to train on and be the scopy 3-year-olds that they're probably bred to be. But Liavani looked very small as well. I think this is probably going to be her year. I'm not sure how much improvement she's going to
relief rally
have.
Type of individual.
Yeah, I think they've got to make the most of her, and I think she's been trained very well up to this point. She'd have learned a lot at Ascot. And I just think she's going the right way where a lot of them have been tried and tested. And it is tough, though. These 2-year-olds, when they're running over sprint trips, that it can be carnage. There's a lot of different angles you can look at. And to get them to be as consistent as you'd like is quite difficult. So Liavani is your class horse in the race. And I think this is her year to kind of shine.
Yeah, I'm going to be really unoriginal and join you as well because 2 from 2, and I know we talk about the Queen Mary form, not necessarily working out as yet, but as at this point, I've got no reason to take her on then. And like you say, from a physical, she just looks that very much cliche here and now type of filly to be trying to win this group too. So Liavani for the pair of us too, James.
Time for Scandal each way.
And Nick?
I'm going to go for Celandine.
Okay, so we've got a few different little selections there. We're pretty unoriginal on this side anyway, with Louis and I, with Liavani at the head of the market in the Lowther. Now we're going to move on to the 3:35, the Group 1 Yorkshire Oaks, 3-year-olds and over a mile forward.
You Got To Me is the filly I really like in this. I think she's the big dog of the field, and Rafe Beckett's really now starting to understand what is best for her. Tongue tie on for a different reason, which I've never heard of before. I don't know if you have, James, but to actually get her to settle, and not necessarily because her wind was a problem in any way, but just to get her to think about what was going on and Hector to kind of play with a bit more so. And that was very interesting for me because I've never heard someone say, I'll put a tongue tie on to get her to think other than be keen.
To distract her.
Exactly.
To
so that was Rafe's
The
kind
only
of
time I heard
planning
it
behind
before was from Rafe Beckett.
Yeah,
What about another horse earlier in the season.
That is
it
such a
worked.
Rafe Beckett thing to do, which is amazing. His attention to detail is exceptional, and it's worked. Hector has a great relationship with this filly, which I think is key. When you have a filly that's quite tricky, to just have faith in the rider and let him do what he needs to do is a massive bonus for the jockey and the horse. So You Got To Me is now learning how to race properly, and I think this track will suit her down to the ground.
Yeah, we saw that at Lingfield with that jockey knowledge of the filly, because that was a great ride and one where she did do too much, but he managed to harness it enough to win quite convincingly. Epsom was always going to be very tricky to ride a filly like that, and they tried things, it didn't work at Epsom. The only question about the tongue tie is, will it work again? She's that kind of filly where she has got that bit of an inconsistent profile, but against that York is going to be relatively straightforward to ride her at. And it might be a smaller field than normal. I think she did well to win the Irish Oaks, bearing in mind it was a big field and it was a roughish race for a filly that can be a little bit tricky. And I think she's got an obvious chance, and the fact race kept the two apart now.
Yeah,
that's a big plus.
But she's not inconsistent for ability. I
No,
think
but-
things have gone wrong.
But will it happen again? She's just not that easy to deal with.
It's a track that's going to give her every chance, put it that way. If she switches off and stays, it's going to be all rosy.
It's not impossible, notwithstanding all the perfectly justifiable concerns that James has expressed, it's not impossible to see her winning this quite impressively. And
She could be the best in the race quite easily.
she's been damned with faint praise a little bit as well for being tough and taking a race as well. And coming. I think if she gets it all together, she could pulverise these, because she could have the perfect setup to do it. She's a bit unusual. There aren't many horses who could run as hard as she did at Lingfield and keep galloping through the line. She's just a bit and I mean this in the nicest possible way, boneheaded's a bad word to use, but she's clearly got a certain stubbornness to
Yeah,
her.
you have to do it her way,
Yeah.
not your way as a jockey. But I worry with a filly like that, sometimes they can just then say, actually, I don't want to do it anymore.
I don't think she's at that stage yet.
No, but normally you'd expect horses like that to recoil off a few runs like that, and yet she seems to
Well,
kind
she's
of
built
keep
on
thriving
Epsom,
on
where
it.
she could easily have gone the wrong way after that.
But Epsom
not
and
strongly
Ascot, where
confident.
she completely threw in a bizarre performance and kept rolling, and then the Curragh, and that, I mean, I'm told that physically she's looking better now than she has done at any point during the season. So.
And I guess she is going to divide opinion now. You both basically touched on it there, where either you're going to take the approach with her where do you trust her to actually give her best running, but at the same time, if she does manage to put it all together, where is the ceiling then for a filly like this?
But the only thing we're not talking about, Kate, which we should be, is the opposition and the calibre of the
Good
opposition.
point. We have covered you got to be quite a lot there. I mean, she's a fascinating character to be covering. But Nick, okay, you lead the rivals then.
Well,
and
okay, well,
exactly
Queen of the
tick
Pride, I think she was great in at Haydock, but I think that she's got to step forward again
It
to
wasn't
be
a particularly strong race at Haydock.
to be the classic winner. But there you go.
If only Ross Briley was here, then he would be all over Queen of the Pride.
He would, yeah.
He is obsessed with that Haydock form line from the penultimate start, the Lady Boba form line. But again, James, you were just agreeing there that she needs to take another step forwards.
Queen of the Pride?
Yeah.
I think she needs to take a big step forward. I don't think it was a particularly strong contest last time. Against that, I like her consistency. I'd have trust issues with Rafe Beckett's filly.
Also, if you like Queen of the Pride at whatever price she is, then you've got to like Sea Theme a bit at 8 times the price.
With that course and distance success
With
to her name.
I mean, William Haggis every year.
York.
They get
Yes.
they get rolling in time for York. I mean, now he can't train a loser at the moment.
No, exactly. And that's what, again, we keep saying about racing cliches, where William Haggis at York is another one then. And Sea Theme.
We'll keep rolling him out, Kate.
Oh, churn them
Can't
out. The
get enough of
bingo
them.
cards will be ticked on Inside Track for the foreseeable. But, I mean, Louis, I want to chuck another one to you. Port Fairy, I loved this filly so much in that penultimate start when she won the Ribblesdale at Ascot. Now, of course, last time out then when she went to the Curragh in the Irish Oaks, all went wrong for her. I just feel that was too bad to be true, and she's been completely dismissed here. If we do get to see her in this, is she another one that's too big a price? Because we've got a few of these here that are pretty dismissed in the betting.
Yeah, I think Port Fairy, you can't write her off. She's one of Aidan O'Brien's, and she has got very good form. So it's not a filly that you're looking at and you're going to take her probably from an inconsistent point of view just yet. Like you mentioned, a lot went wrong last time out, and she does still have it in the tank to come good. So she would definitely one to watch out for. And I can't ever write off Emily Upjohn. I don't know why.
No, yeah.
I know she does so much wrong, and she's still not got. But you just can't. Like
This is the redemption of the shoe, isn't it?
But-
Emily Upjohn.
it's going to be a point
Shoe.
where
This is
the
the
shoe
story.
comes good.
Well, the shoe's already come good.
No, the shoe's good.
Friendly soul.
Friendly soul, that's one ride. I'm just saying the shoe has got to be put on the other foot, and he's got to come.
From the taming of the shrew to the
Oh, yeah,
redemption
yeah.
of the shoe.
But
we've
you
got
can't
now,
write her
like,
off, can you?
basically.
Draw
write-
will be crucial with her because
Yes.
you knew after 100 yards that it was going to be an absolute disaster in an assault. It just, whatever Kieran was going to decide to do after a furlong, it was always going to be the wrong decision.
I think he's probably deepened it a bit too much on how tricky she probably is now. I think she's a bit older and can be ridden a slightly more straightforward. If I was on her, I would trust her. And I would just let her get on with her business. If
Yeah.
it goes wrong, it goes wrong. But I think you're just trying to pull her about and mess around with what's going on. And you can't judge that only from the minute the stall's open. And Kieran went into the race last time with no plan, which I think is very risky at Goodwood.
I think low on confidence
He was
as well.
just out, and there was no really move to be decisive and to say, you're going here and let's try it. It was just floating around, and she didn't like it. And I'm just saying I would trust her ability, and that she's a bit older now, and just let her get on with it.
Emily Upjohn is interesting. I wouldn't be giving up on her just yet.
Yeah.
With the catchphrase that she could do.
I was going to say, how many times have we churned that one out this season with her already? But yeah, she is, so isn't she? The ability's there, and you just hope it's going to come right for her again at some point. Perhaps this will be the time for her. So she's going to be the main play for you?
Each way.
Okay,
Yeah,
we'll
each way,
give you that. We'll give you that
You Got
concession.
to Me is my main
is
one.
the main
but
play.
Emily Upjohn, I can't write her off.
You're not trusting.
I don't trust You Got to Me.
Nick.
You Got to Me, win only.
Okay, win only then, and
Win
confident. I hope to see Port Fairy. I've just got such a soft spot for her, so I'm going to go her each way if she does turn up here. Right, we will switch over then to the Friday of York, of course, day 3. And the second race on the card is the 225. This is a Group 2 Lonsdale Cup, 3-year-olds and over 2 miles. So stayers to the fore and then some. So many of our favourite old protagonists in here then, James. So which of these stayers slogs it out the best?
Perhaps it is the day for Vauban this campaign.
Yeah.
It's not quite gone to plan, which would be understatement. He didn't stay at Ascot. He was just far too keen over the 2.5. I was disappointed last time out, but it was a strange race. The leader got away on the front end, and Tower of London could be pretty special, actually, to win that contest. So back over 2 mile at York, I think it will play to his strengths, and in what's potentially a relatively weak stayers division at the moment, I'm going to go with Vauban once again.
It might just come good then for him, William Björk, and then Willie Mullins as well. Has William told you anything then about Vauban for this? You know I'm going to ask you this question every single time you've sat in this chair.
No, he hasn't. I think we all kind of know where Vauban's at
Yeah.
now. I think the trip and track is going to suit him a lot better. I like Gregory. I think he didn't really get the rub of the green last time out. He got pestered, and I think it's only a matter of time where he's going to start coming good again. He's consistent on his day, maybe does lack a bit of class, but then again, it's not the depth of the Goodwood Cup we have this time out. So it's quite an open race, really. If Quickthorn goes off and does his usual thing, I mean, I know the jockeys are more tactically astute to him now, but if he does do that, he can kill them off from a long way out. So he's an old favourite of everyone's, isn't he? And you'd like to see Quickthorn run a big race as well.
Oh, and if he gets that lead again, then yeah, like I say, everyone's wise to that now. But we're kind of in two minds about the weather this week as well, though, Nick, and exactly how that's going to play out for not just, of course, the Lonsdale Cup, but races across the week. Would you the rain on Tuesday?
Yeah, if the forecast is right, then the ground might start just on the dead side of good. If they get the meaty showers that they're talking about, and then there's a little bit of rain sort of in and out through the rest of the week. So it doesn't look like we're going to get the sort of deluge to turn it soft. That's the thing. So I think we're going to have to kind of presuppose that we're handicapping these races on good ground, without wishing to sound like a broken record and repeat everything that Louis said. If I was playing my sort of straight bat, I'd probably back Gregory, but he's got to get on and do it now. And
This year's just not been quite as good at Gregory as what we saw.
No, what we were
before.
hoping then to
little
go on
disappointed
to.
with him.
Sweet William managed to out-battle him.
Yeah, and
last time.
after the
Yeah, but he got
Goodwoods-
made to go fast.
Yeah, I hear you. But after the Yorkshire Cup,
Yeah.
I thought, this horse is going to,
Come good.
really, really go through the season now. You said it. I think the bet in the race is Quickthorn. He ran not much of a race last time, didn't run any kind of race on his seasonal debut, but at some point in the season, unless he's completely gone at the game, he's going to freak out. When he freaks out, nothing can live with him. There was the race where he won this race 2 years ago, and Stradivarius was going to run and didn't, and Subjectivist was going to run and didn't. They could both have turned up. He'd have still beaten them. It was a ridiculous performance, and it was the same again in the Goodwood Cup when all the other jockeys got slagged off. Nothing could have
The
beaten
trouble
him
is,
that day.
the other jockeys, most of their stayers can't physically get out of that cruising speed to live with Quickthorn in the early stages, and you can criticise him as much as you want, but the ones that chase him, their chances normally erode. So it's very hard as a jockey taking on Quickthorn, because you know you're on a stayer for a reason. They generally can't go that quick early doors without hampering your own chances.
Basically, the owners have managed to breed the two most unusual horses
Not
in
so
training,
sleepy.
and they both won group or grade ones. Not So Sleepy and Quickthorn. So,
Yeah.
I think that at these odds, you just have to go right. He'll either freak out or he won't. If he freaks out, he wins, and they're double figure odds.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't, well, on your move.
What do you do in that situation then, James, as a jockey, if you've got a horse like Quickthorn to go out in front and to do that? Because like you've just said there, where you don't want to compromise your own chances, but you're on a stayer, so asking them to make up that ground with a turn of foot, you are lacking somewhat.
Yeah, I think you just have to accept it. He'll either stop or he won't.
Yeah.
I think if you...
So there's nothing you can really do.
I
it's just
don't
on
think
them,
there is,
yeah.
because it's very easy to, especially the Goodwood Cup, a lot of criticism came the other jockey's way, but the ones that actually chased him the earliest, all they did was set up the second place fight for the ones that were ridden more patiently. So it is very, very tricky to ride against
The
them.
funniest thing about the Goodwood Cup was not that all of us were sitting in the stands blaming the
What are you
jockeys.
doing?
It was the fact that the jockeys who were sitting in fourth or further back were all blaming Oisin Murphy, who was sitting in second, for not judging the distance right between him and the other one. And I'm thinking, well, any of you lot could have gone there if you wanted to. So it was like they all started blaming each other.
Not blaming the one who didn't bridge the gap then in front, who was leading the toe then forwards. Yeah, they've got to point the blame somewhere, you jockeys, haven't you?
Well, you try, just not yourself.
Look, anywhere else you possibly can. Okay, one horse though I want to chuck to you, and Nick, I'll go to you with Alsakib in here. Again, we talk about course horses and the fact that he managed to handle those conditions over the mile 6 last time out at York to such good effect. Does he stand a chance then up to this?
Well, he's on the upgrade, isn't he? And again, you've made the point that, extra ground may bring about extra improvement, but I've put myself on the line as to what I think about the race, and I'm pretty happy to stick with that.
Well, at least you haven't put me off of Alsakib anyway, because I'm trusting that he would be able to...
I'd never put you off, Kate.
No, to be fair, you don't. You're very kind to me in that sense. I'm waiting for the day where you just slam down my selection.
Well, I'm not exactly holding all the aces myself at the moment, so I'm not going to start doing that.
At the moment, it's going to be a full cycle. Don't worry, we know how this game works. But yeah, Alsakib, though, he'd be the one for me. I think he's got a lot of untapped potential, especially then over 2 miles as well. And glad to see that he is going in this one. Well, hopefully he will do anyway, because then we're going to get, again, further answers from him. So Alsakib for me, Louis.
Let's go with Quickthorn.
Okay, Quickthorn then to cause the upset again in this race and play catch.
Vauban this time around.
Vauban to come good. You know he is going to at some point. Again, it's just tricky to know when he is. Nick?
I'd like to see Vauban in the flesh first before I put my money there.
Oh, definitely.
I'd be willing to wait.
Okay.
Because...
Obviously, if they are working towards, Willie Mullins works towards Cheltenham Festival with his jumpers, he's going to be aiming him to peak in November.
Well, he's gone from being the most chilled out animal I've ever set my eyes on. You'll know this better.
Yeah, I can't believe those quotes that he ever bounded about. From my experience of seeing him in person, he is not a chilled horse.
And then and then he hasn't been at all chilled either in Melbourne or at Royal Ascot, where he actually ran really well. I thought, my God, this horse is going to fall out the back of the TV again at Ascot.
He only got beat 9 lengths, I think, in the end.
Great.
Yeah, I can believe that Willie Easton, well, to be fair, he would do, wouldn't he, though, to be fair, Willie Mullins. But when he was making out, he was such this laid-back, chilled-out horse. He'll have no problem going down to Australia by himself, training on the track. And I thought, of all the horses I met at Cheltenham that I would have had the most concerns about, he was the hothead.
And Absurd wouldn't have been the probably ideal companion for him either.
Exactly, Absurd, not an ideal companion for anyone, to be fair. He's not exactly going to give you a nice toe down anywhere. But working back to Melbourne, hopefully they get it right then for him. But as we move on to the 3:35 then on the Friday at York, the Group 1 Nunthorpe Stakes, 2-year-olds and over 5 furlongs. Fast and Furious. Asphora heading the way currently, but of course she's going to have big Evs then right on her tail, James.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a role reversed.
Or the other way around, to be fair.
Round 3 goes to the Australian mare. As for a £5 penalty at Goodwood, they gave her a nice break in between Royal Ascot and Goodwood, and I think they've got her in better shape. You were actually speaking to Amy Murphy on the other day at Kempton, where she stayed without their yard, and Lemos, her husband, rode her work the other day, and by all accounts, they're very happy with how she's going.
She looks completely different.
She was going in her coat early doors when she first came over at Haydock.
Because of the
winter in Australia, spring here. But Chanel, who seems to have done such an amazing job with her, she says she can't pick a fault, whereas she could pick faults in her at the start of her campaign. And what I like at Haydock, very much a prep run at Haydock, where she ran well under an Australian jockey. So much better at Royal Ascot on the quicker ground. Goodwood was the same. She had a £5 penalty. They knew the track perhaps wasn't going to suit as well, but it was a stepping stone, which is Australian trainers do use a lot more than British trainers perhaps. They're not as disappointed if they get beat as such. They're quite happy to roll the dice. And the £5 turnaround, I think she got an absolutely amazing chance. I'm really looking forward to seeing what she can do.
We've got this great narrative, though, haven't we, Lou, between these two, Asfor and Big Evs. And, of course, the horse that split them regional is likely to run in the Nunthorpe as well. But we've got a great narrative to go with these sprinters, which is something we've really been crying out for quite a while now. So good to see that we've got it.
Yeah, I'm starting to enjoy it now. Kind of a bit of a match-up between these two. I do agree with you, James. I think I went with Big Evs when we were last on the podcast at Goodwood, and an exceptional run by him, but he did probably get the rub of the green over Asphora last time out. Big Evs just scares me because he's so fast and furious on the pace, and I think they're just going to go hell for leather here, and Asphora just literally sits in the slipstream and she waits and times her run to perfection. I think Oisin would have been kicking himself after last time.
Yeah, it was one a little bit potentially got away as well.
Yeah, you could see that off the TV, but take nothing away from Big Evs. I love him as a horse, but I just think the tables have turned for this type of race. She's going to get a better, probably sit in the race and just smoothly come through and get there on the line.
And get the toe into it as well. But
yeah.
I guess, Nick, what do you really want at York over the 5 furlongs? Do you want a horse that does just blast forward and plays catch me if you can, a la Live in the Dream? Or do you want a horse that is going to take advantage of that pace, burn up?
Well, you don't want one that you're sitting right out the back on, that's for sure. Because take even a horse like, go back 14 years now, Soul Power.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say.
A horse many of whose greatest days came when right out the back and then just beetling through horses, a bit like at Ascot, bang, nose on the line. That day sat a lot handier because you can't be sat that far off the back in the Nunthorpe. And so to your question, really you need some pace. You need some basic pace. Now, I know there's going to be a lot on here, and I take your point that it could be a burn-up, but I think you still need a horse who's going to sit.
Keep going to the final
You
half
want
of her
one I'd call like a latch on, don't you? You want to be latching on to the pace and then hoping that the Live in the Dreams, Pontos, Big Evs maybe. You want that to just start to capitulate inside the last half.
Yeah, so you're using them as your advantage, like regional and Live in the Dream. You're using them. They're probably not good enough to win, to a certain extent, but their running style can take you into the race at least to the half furlong pole.
And the thing is, Live in the Dream could do it.
It'd be the biggest shot.
It wouldn't be the biggest
it wouldn't.
shot.
But I'm just saying, it's not likely that ability-wise stacked up between Asphora and Big Evs is as good.
Well, again, we're always in danger every season, aren't we, of overrating the existing sprinting form, and suddenly it all goes haywire, and we're like, oh God, how did that happen? And something completely wild goes on, which is why something like, I'm indebted to Graham Cunningham for this one, but isn't it something like the last 21 Group 1 sprints that have been run in Great Britain, so take out Ireland and France, in Great Britain have been won by 20 different horses or something?
I wouldn't be surprised.
It's something nuts like that.
Yeah.
And one of those horses is Bradsell.
That's what I thought could be interesting.
And I think he might win
He was
again.
good at Deauville.
He was really good last time. Kept it very straightforward, did Holly, in that, didn't she? So do you think now on the back of that reappearance success that's now a platform for Bradsell to really reach the heights we always expected of him?
Yeah, he hasn't got the best conformation. He's quite hard to keep sound, and that had been an issue throughout his career.
Might be a good bit of training, this, mightn't it?
I thought he disappeared. I didn't think he'd be coming back, to be honest. And then when he popped up at Deauville, I was like, oh, he's back in business. And he's the one flying the ointment for Asphora, because I think she's got the horses that she's raced against this campaign covered. It's not a strong division. Bradsell could be the one that bounces back. But I'm still going to stick with the Aussie mare, but I do think he could be, not say, the danger.
And
last year, everyone talked about, quite rightly, the winner was a brilliant story, Live in the Dream. Yeah. And everyone who didn't love the Live in the Dream story had wanted Highfield Princess to win. Mm-hmm. And she finished second, so you're kind of concentrating on whether she'd run a race or not. No one really paid any attention to that. Bradsell was probably a bit unlucky not to win because he was in a little group on their own, did best of that group, didn't get the clearest run when Holly wanted it. So I think he's a massive player this time.
Yeah, and I just really hope that we get to see a full season then of him towards the second half of it. But this may well be the one to kickstart it. And I guess, Lou, when you've got that, and you've got a division that is so wide open with so many question marks still in it, for all that we're getting those interlocking form lines now and the right horses filling out the first three places. So when you chuck in a horse like Bradsill into the sprinting division, just how much credit do you have to give him then, and how much can he upset the apple cart?
Yeah, well, he makes the race a lot more interesting. Like James has said, he's not showed his hand yet in this division against these horses that we see on a regular basis. So you've definitely got to take him seriously. I think he's going to improve massively from his first run to now. He can't not after being off the track. And I think the way the race will be run will suit something like Bradsill and Asphora. That's how I see it. I see it very fast up front. The horses up front are probably, ability-wise, not as good as the ones I like, which is what I'm going to say. And I just think it's going to be a race where they get brought into it nicely.
William Derby called potential track record if they don't get all the rain.
Ooh.
What do you reckon?
Well, Living the Dream's going to give them the toe into it, for sure.
Perfect. No excuse-wise. Yeah, let's say if the ground is just right.
On Song Batash holds the track record.
And York used to be his bogey track, didn't it?
Deja second fastest time, Oasis Dream third fastest time.
It's set up to be one of them races, isn't it?
Who would be the horse to break that then?
Well, there isn't
Who's
any.
most
There
likely to
isn't.
break
There isn't a horse in this race that would get within a couple of lengths of any of those three.
No, but with the right conditions, with the right pace setup, then do you still not think it would be?
A course record?
Yeah.
Unlikely.
Okay. Well, we teased it up for
unless there's an absolutely rampant tailwind, which there might be.
Yes, yeah. But hopefully we get to see something special. I mean, I'm going very, very unoriginal here, or very boring. I'm going just with the each way play if regional goes. I feel he's a safe conveyance. He's so consistent, so likeable. Yeah, he's just a solid performer, isn't he? Course and distance success for his name. He's done me a few
Wish
turns.
I'd bought him for
over the time.
$3,500.
I think a lot of people, well,
Sturdy, isn't he?
That's it, yeah.
Why don't
He's
we ever
very
get those
sturdy.
no, normally end up with
Why don't
dodgy
we ever
ones
get
that are no good.
You definitely do not end up with those ones, but yeah.
$3,500.
Regional though, I just think he's a solid play though in a race where we can get the occasional upset for all that we're getting those more solid form lines. But James, who do you like again?
I'm going to stick Team Aussie, Asphora.
Team Aussie with the Aussie mare then, Nick.
Bradsill.
Bradsill, and you're going to agree again then, Louis?
Asphora.
Asphora is the main play though. Okay, Asphora is the main play. So again, a little bit of agreement somewhat for the Nunthorpe on the Friday. Now we move over to the final day, the Saturday, the fourth day of York's Ebor Festival. And just a reminder again that Wiliam Hill have a top price guarantee on the first race of every day of York's Ebor Festival. But we're going to begin with the 3 o'clock though. This is for Group 2 City of York Stakes. 3-year-olds and over the 7 furlongs. And again, we talk about storylines for these races. The 7 furlong division feels like they've provided no end of that. Doesn't necessarily make it that much easier to solve though, Nick, but has audience really established himself now as the horse to beat?
Probably. I mean, it's easy enough to say he freaked out and fluked in the Lockinge, but I'm not sure you can fluke twice.
No.
I mean, he did again. He got the perfect
race
setup
though.
at good
Space.
Perfect
Other
setup,
jockeys in
and he
behind,
had a bunny
behind.
for him as well, didn't he?
Art
Power.
Art Power bunnied
Couldn't ask
for
to be
him.
any better for Ralph Alvin. He'd have been delighted after 2 furlongs.
But the way the City of York pans out normally, he's got the perfect running style for this, hasn't he?
Second last year behind Kinross.
Exactly. And on
The
Song
horse this year,
Kinross.
though. Yeah, I'd like to say Kinross was probably better in this race last year. Audience probably wasn't as good as he was. So is that going to be enough to reverse?
And there'll be something go on and give him a lead again.
Yeah, well, would he just...
I don't think you ride him to think you're going to get a lead though. I think
Yeah,
you've got to
you go
just jump as
forward.
if you're going to make
And
it.
if something's there, then...
Yeah.
You're either going to get an uncontested or
or a
something's
lead.
going too fast.
You wouldn't want to be crowded on him, though. I think if you can get him a little bit isolated, because I remember last year, Rab used to ride him at Newmarket in those 7 furlong group races, Criterion, on his own, away from everybody else.
But this is the advantage of the City of York being on Saturday, because they've used most of the ground on the inside to the middle of the track. They start.
Yeah, they're going to come
down
across to the
they
stand
come
side.
across to the
But then
stand side.
if he's drawn mid-pack, it does make life a little bit harder. I still don't trust audience.
You've got a lot of trust
I
issues.
know.
You've got a lot of trust
I've known from working with this guy for years. He is honestly, the bar is set somewhere up there.
Yeah, I'm not trusting.
You probably still don't trust the day indefinite at this stage.
No, I do.
either, do
She's
you?
the only one. She's the only one.
finally made the trust.
She's the only one that gives a rule. She's not as good as I'd like her to be, but she tries her best every time. So, audience.
Does he not try his best every time? No.
No, I can't have him. I can't.
But it's everything. Everything is designed to give him the best chance.
It could well be.
No penalties because they want to get the race up to
It
Group
should be a
1.
Group 1.
Yes. Group 1 status, Louis, they should definitely get. But who's going to hopefully turn it into a Group 1?
Who's going to turn it into Group 1? In this race, I'm not too sure.
Audience!
I like James said, Audience is a very good horse on his day. So much has to go right. Kinross, again, quite long in the tooth now. I like him with rain. The track will suit him, but he needs to jump and travel this time out. I mean, it was quite lacklustre at Goodwood. If I was going to go with something maybe coming up in the ranks, it would be King's Gamble for Rafe Beckett. I love this horse. I spoke to Rafe after his 2-year-old career, and he really liked him. I think it's only going to be a matter of time where he develops into quite a nice horse. Whether he's quite at that stage yet, I don't know, but I think he will be a very good horse in the future.
Oh, he might be bringing down our average, only rated 110, so I want those ones above him to be bringing
He could be better than that after this.
He can finish
hopefully.
4th then, and we'll allow him that for this. But so Kinross, Nick, where are we with Kinross?
I just don't think he's quite as good as he was.
Oh, that makes me so sad to hear, but I
Don't
agree.
forget, at the end of last year, they were going to go to the Breeders' Cup or Hong Kong. Both of those got shelved. Rafe Beckett said, we need to draw stumps now. He's telling me he's had enough of the season. And then it was quite a belated comeback. I think he should have won at Newcastle and kind of pulled himself up a bit. And he thought he did done that at Ask at the end of last year. He's
had a hard career.
He has given the lot.
Yeah.
And although he's still high class, I'm not sure he's got that much more left to give.
No, and I mean, no horses owe anyone anything, but Kinross especially doesn't owe anyone anything.
He's an absolute legend. He's an
I think
absolute legend.
Rafe does make it clear, though. He lets him kind of do what he wants now. Like he probably isn't as hard on him as what he has been in the past to get him 100%.
I thought he ran well on Lennox because
I did, with the
other
made
jockeys, the two got away and they were looking around and they'd lost 5 lengths very quickly, and he only got beat 5 lengths. So I didn't think he ran too far below form, but he needs softer ground, I think, as a 7-year-old. Like I say, I've got trust issues with Audience. So Lake Forest for me. Last year's Gimcrack, when we've mentioned William Haggis, loves York, first time at the 7 furlongs, ideal track to try it. I just thought, was it 5 weeks since he last ran? I thought it could have been the planned 3rd run of the season. He's an unexposed 3-year-old. Against 2 horses that are now getting on, Audience is 5, Kinross 7. He was the angle I was looking for the future Group 1, hopefully, City of York.
Yeah, to then be, hopefully so, to be bringing it up then with the course win to his name as well. Lake Forest is a different shout for the 3-year-old there, taking on his elders. I hate to go against Kinross. It just feels like I'm...
You're awesome.
Go with him then.
No, but I don't think he's going to beat Audience.
You'll kick yourself. If Kinross wins...
Oh, no, I won't,
you'll
honestly.
hate yourself.
I actually won't. I will be over the moon if I have no penny on him, if I haven't tipped him off anywhere, if Kinross goes and wins. He's one of those horses in isolation where if he goes and wins, no matter what I've said in the build-up, I couldn't care less about. So I'm hoping for a gallant run from him yet again. But yeah, I disagree with you, Nick, where I just think Audience is very much the one to beat now. So Audience for the pair of us two. And then Lake Forest for Jason. Still shaking his head about Audience. The trust issues continue. Louis?
I got a bigger price, King's Gamble.
King's Gamble to bring down the average. Right, we'll move on to the 3:35 at York. Now we're going to sign off this preview in the easiest possible way with the Ebor, the Heritage Handicap, 4-year-olds and over a mile 6. I mean, I don't know who's going to get this hospital pass first. So, Louis, you spoke first, so you're getting it.
I mean, where do I start? This was a race I actually won, so I should have a rough idea.
Exactly.
Actually, of what's
You
going
should.
on.
Thank goodness I did start with you.
Yeah.
There you go. Right, what do you need to win?
You need a lot, put it that way. It's kind of turning into a different race than what it always was, I think.
Did you win this on one of those Andrew Tinkler horses?
Yes, Johnny Murters.
Johnny Murter, yeah.
Mutual Regard.
That's it.
And I believe they bought him off Sir Mark Prescott, and Sir Mark Prescott finished second with the big Qatari horse.
Palisator.
Palisator.
The big giraffe.
Yes, the big giraffe.
Yeah.
Remember poor Rosie Jessup eventually getting a go on him at Doncaster, and he wasn't very nice for her. Palisator.
And I was petrified because I didn't actually get a chance to ever meet Johnny Murter, nor ride with him, and he didn't know who I was. He said... He said, "What's your name?" I told him my name, and he said, "You know what you're doing, don't you, kid?" And I said, "Yes, Mr. Murter." He said, "Don't call me Mr. Johnny." I said, "Okay." He said, "You know what you're doing, don't you? Don't hit the front too soon." And I said, Yeah, okay. Anyway, when I bolted up. So
when did you hit the front?
Inside the final furlong.
Ooh, you
and
did.
I come in and he told me I still hit the front too soon. So, and he come running over to me in hysterics and his arms are going like this. Next minute, the horse whips round. I nearly fell off. So he was a very happy Johnny Martyr that day.
And remind me again, what was the horse's profile coming into the race?
He was a handicapper. And I believe he was going to Australia afterwards. So it was kind of a run to prep him for that. And obviously I claimed 5 at the time, so it gave the horse a lot more of a chance. But like I was saying before, it's not that race now where I think an improving handicapper has as a good a chance as what they did before. I think you kind of really need to be a group horse.
You don't get in,
the
that's
wings.
the problem.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
are still got a bit of scope and hand in your mark, because going back to Sergeant Cecil a few years before Louis won it, he won it off 92, I think. And now he just wouldn't be getting in these races. Because the prize money is so high, and it basically is a Melbourne Cup trial group horses in a handicap.
So that's improved the race, obviously. Like, it literally has done by
It's the
official
nature of it,
ratings. But do you think it's improved the race from a punting perspective then, the fact we haven't got those horses with handicapping perspective?
Makes it harder, I think.
Yeah.
But it's just slightly different. It is a more Melbourne Cup-esque race now than
Yeah, I
perhaps
suppose
what it was the traditional Ebor, if you go back 20 years ago now, which Cecil won it.
So is that the first thing you're looking for nowadays with the race? Is that just group performer is relatively exposed?
Yeah, and you know, I don't read as much into the handicap marks as what I perhaps did in the past. And going back to regional, Epic Poet was in the sales last year, and I did send Mr. Millman to have a look at him. And I don't know why he rejected him, but he didn't end up going back to Devon. I think he made about £48,000, and he's been a cracking buy for David O'Mara. And second at Royal Ascot over a mile and a half. He dropped back to 10 for the John Smiths. Trip was a little bit too short, but he was very classy in France. So he actually is one that I think is still well handicapped, because it's such a disappointing time with the Meads. And for me, David O'Mara, he gets his horses back, and basically like a regional, as a gutted that we didn't pick him up, he may well be my Ebor selection.
And the one then, who could perhaps have got away. You interviewed David O'Mara about this lad, didn't you?
I did. That's genius. You managed to listen to that already.
It was a long drive
did you do that?
To be fair. It was a lengthy drive-in, so
And you
thank goodness
recorded
you got
it
it
this
out
morning.
early enough. That was this morning, wasn't it? Yeah.
Good going, yeah.
Thank you very much. Well,
It's
I
good
couldn't
going.
miss a show, could I?
That was on the Nick Luck Daily podcast, by the way.
And David O'Mara said, not to steal your quotes here.
Well, he's not sure that the horse is going to stay, but I think it was the run at Ascot that gave them the encouragement to aim for the Ebor. So it's not as though they've been trying to get the horse to run in the Ebor all season. It's not like, oh God, we got this amazing plot, we're going to go for the Ebor and work backwards. It's like, okay, he was staying on over a mile and a half, and he has lots of class from back in the day when he was with Jean-Claude Rouget. So you can see the case for sure. There's a couple I think are more interesting, but
Which are?
Relentless Voyager is one.
Yes.
Not massive prizes for originality, I don't think. Wasn't really able to show what he was capable of when third here in the small field race that was won by Klondike, very well ridden Klondike that day, and I think they were just giving him a sight around York. I think it was right. Let's give him
a big field as well.
Let's give him a sighter
Experience of
over
both
the
of
course
those.
and distance of the Ebor. He handled the track fine. He's run really well since. He's still on the upgrade. This has been the target for a long time, and I think Relentless Voyager is a big player. The slightly more risky one, and again I interviewed the trainer the other day, Crystal Delight, for Harry Eustace, ran a shocker, went up to Group Company, or was it listed?
Listed
or
at
listed?
Newmarket.
Was it listed? Yeah. But that was just a non-event. And previously he had...
Epsom was so impressive
Epsom
on
was
the yard
good.
debut.
York, the next time, absolutely freaked
And only
out.
£8 rise for that. If you're talking about the handicap ratings, that's fair on what you saw at York,
Also, I think he might make all,
which can happen.
which can
yes.
happen.
Yeah.
So he'd be a bigger... Crystal Delight and Relentless Voyager would be my two.
Of the £8 higher
But
mark.
thank you for listening to the O'Mara thing.
Thank you for recording it. It saves me a lot of work just listening to your work.
That's made my day.
Crystal Delight, though, like you say, with that course win from the penultimate start, the rise and back down into handicap company, probably the way to go. But Relentless Voyager, still a double-figure price, so all the same for a consistent time.
Fairbanks could be same stable though. I'd probably be more towards
The
him.
Boldings. Would you?
Do you like him at
prefer
the July
Fairbanks?
meeting?
I thought the fact
He was
that good at
impressive.
July meeting, and Cecil, when he won the Ebor, he got beat by Mephisto
Sergeant
at
Cecil.
Goodwood. Sergeant Cecil, yeah. And escaped the £4 penalty. So actually, in some ways, getting beat at Goodwood, it might actually disappoint at the time, but it might not be the end of the world.
The one who I like in this is Harbour Wind, though. He's the one who we haven't mentioned just yet, have we? No. Who won that listed contest at Limerick last time out. But of course, that was on the back of 9 months off the track. Again, it's the given, isn't it? The fact that you'd expect him to improve from that. And the fact that he just sat off of the pace then, and the way that he came through to win that in the end. I thought he looked a very exciting young stayer. So he's kind of, we talk about the blends of whether or not you want that progressive handicapper with mileage in there, Mark, or you want the group horse in the making. Well, I feel with Harbour Wind, for a lightly raced individual, I do think he is that group horse with the handicapping scope. So for me, he's the perfect blend of both worlds, but I'm going to side with him then, Louis.
If I was a jockey, I'd be going with Harbour Wind. I think, wonderful. I think he's classy and probably got just that bit of edge over these handicappers. I mean, one run this year was very impressive. Probably got tired late on in that race at Limerick.
Yeah, he did look it, yeah.
But last time out, at the back end of last year, he looked good. He won a listed race, second in a Group 2. So he's probably your group horse in the making. But yet again, it's a race that is a lottery. And again, tactics play a big part. The way the race is run, you know, whether you get a run or not, they bunch up and it's fast and furious and you have to have stamina. There's just so much to it in these big handicaps. They're probably harder to win than a group race. I'd rather see Harbour Wind run in a group race.
Generally, to win that big handicap.
Look at a horse like Keys Chorister. She should have won this. Well, won it. She should have been. Watch. She should have been very close to winning.
5th or 6th in the end.
But she's back, getting no run at all. And look what she's turned out.
Yeah, exactly. Which just goes to show, let's say, what she could have been capable of on that day.
The problem is, if you've got horses like Trawler Man in front of you, you need the rub of the green. You know, they're good horses, and you can't, you know.
Wait a second.
And again, the bunching up on the stands rail.
And that last day,
really problematic.
Yeah, and where you want to then be into a home straight as well. Who was your selection?
Harbour Wind.
Oh, you are with Harbour Wind then as well. Oh, wonderful. Again, the agreement. You seem to have agreed with every one of us at some point then along the way.
Yeah, he's a great diplomat.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
He hasn't got where he has today without
juggling
a few balls.
Exactly, that's it. James, your selection.
Fair Winds and Epic Poet.
Okay, two. Yeah, to be fair, you're allowed two. So, Nick, you're definitely allowed your two.
Kate.
Sticking with the same?
Yeah.
Okay.
Crystal Delight and Relentless Voyager.
A Relentless Voyager. I'm going to go all in on Harbour Wind then for the Ebor. Nice easy race for us to solve. Again, do let us know in the comment section below who you fancy for the Heritage Handicap. But lads, that brings an end to our York Ebor Festival preview. So all that is left for me to do is to get your naps. So nice easy one for you. Hopefully the cogs are a-whirring now where you're thinking of it. James, you look the most confident, so I'm going to go with you first for your nap.
Asphora, Team Australia.
Asphora, Team Aussies in the sprinting division in the Nunthorpe. Nick?
I'll go with You Got To Me in the Yorkshire Oaks.
Okay, again, from the agreement horse then, that she's still got that other sort of level to find, and she's going to be able to do so, Louis?
City of Troy.
Okay, fair dues. I mean, that is fair enough. I'm going to go right back to the start. Los Angeles. We were all in agreement with Los Angeles. It feels only right that one of us should side with him in the Great Voltigeur to get the meeting off, hopefully, to a good start on Wednesday. Well, that brings an end to Inside Track, brought to you by Wiliam Hill and our York Ebor Festival preview. So a big thank you to the lads for all of their hard work. Hopefully you enjoyed it at home. Have we got our selections right, though? Do let us know who are your own naps for the York Ebor Festival as well. Do get in touch and let us know. Well, thank you so much for watching our York Ebor preview. This has been Inside Track, brought to you by Wiliam Hill. And if you would like to go back and watch our previous episode where we rank the top 5 sprinters of all time, click the link in the video. 18+, please remember to gamble responsibly.